Look at us. AMC people.
So today on our podcast, we have Noah Kimia and Melissa Kelly. Both work at AMC Network and both went to Pace University. So thank you guys for coming out. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
So let's start with, why did you guys choose Pace and what was your major going into it, and did that change ever?
You want to go first?
Sure. Well, I'm from Jersey, so I always wanted to be in New York, and I did a lot of media and camera stuff and film in high school, so I immediately knew I wanted to do a film major. So I did that from the beginning, kind of just stuck with it at Pace. It's really kind of, yeah.
Awesome.
So I went with it right away.
And you knew like New York. From
Yeah, I
get-go?
wanted to be in New York.
That was another big
I knew
thing as
immediately
well,
that I
right?
wanted to be in New York, so I started off by like looking at New York schools, and then I just went down from there. So, yeah.
And then went to Pace. Nice,
Yeah.
nice.
A very abridged version for me. I was in a youth group that everyone went back to Israel. It was like literally I'm the only one in my graduating class from my youth group that didn't move back. And I was like, I just don't really vibe with that. Like, I just don't want to go back. So I toured like 3 colleges and went to Pace undecided.
Okay. Nice.
But I like 100% like I had been to New York like twice with my family, and it was always like super stressful because it was my mom trying to like chase 4 kids around. But I had never been like one of those people who were like, I dream of New York, like the theater
Oh, God,
and all
I was.
that. But it's so odd. Like, not until I like got here that I like got that. But
Right.
I also think there's like a pro to that of like, I could never be disappointed because I walked in with no expectations.
Right. No, that's
Oh,
good.
that's pretty good.
So you also, your parents are immigrants, right? And then you went to Pace. So did that have a factor? Was that factored into any of your decisions beforehand or anything like that?
So my siblings and I, we moved here when we were kids from Israel. And then we always thought we were moving back, and we always spent like summers in Israel and all that. And I don't think it had like a set effect on me. I think it had more of an effect on my friends who, like, the town that I grew up in was like 10-15% Israeli immigrants, like absurdly high. And there were like the Israeli kids who kind of just hang out with each other, and then there were the ones who kind of like were friends with everybody. So I feel like for me, because I moved pretty young, it didn't have an effect on my decision making. Like, it was never like, I'm going to move back to Israel because all my friends are doing it. I'm like, they're doing their thing, but it's not right for me. But I feel like every aspect of who you are, like even if you have parents who are like Italian or stuff like that, like it shapes who you are and
of course.
ends up shaping a lot of your decision making. And I feel like you just become more aware of it as you grow up.
Yeah.
So you came into Pace undecided, and then what did you end up with as a major, and how did you like arrive at that decision?
I switched like 3 times.
Like everybody,
Classic.
like I did too. So.
So I did mock trial in high school. So I was like, I'll like be a lawyer. And then I didn't like it. I landed with double majoring in marketing and communications, long story short.
Okay. No, that's awesome. I mean, it sounds like a lot of people and a lot of students go through the same thing. Like I like went through the same thing as well. Like I was like, okay, I want to be a lawyer. No. Okay, I want to be an accountant. No. Investment banker. No. And then I landed in the entertainment industry. So you really don't know where you're going to end up.
Yeah.
But so you're at Pace, both of you guys. What like kind of activities were you a part of? Can you talk about internships and getting those internships? Was that easy? What was the process like?
Yeah, I feel like for me it was very much me just kind of reaching out to a bunch of like people on like LinkedIn, just getting advice. On in the beginning, just like what kind of internship. Like I was very broad when I started. I just wanted to do film, so I was like, okay, I'm a film major, and I kind of flipped back and forth. I was solidly a film major, but then I like was like, I'll do double major with like computer science, and they're like, you can't do that. So I was like, okay, never mind. And then I ended up just like doing political science also.
Got it.
Which was like a weird mix, but it was kind of fun because in my head I was like, I'll do documentaries, which
Okay, yeah.
yeah,
I was
like
about
in
to
my
ask
head.
like why with the poli sci.
Yeah, I think I added poli sci because I just like weirdly enough just wanted to like learn more. Like I didn't want to just do film. Like I wanted, like in my head I was like, if I'm gonna do like media, film, and like create things, I want to have like a background in just like getting used to always like reading things and writing that's like
Right.
out of my comfort zone. Political science kind of just like stuck out. So from there I was able to I got lucky that like my dad's friend worked at like NBC, because I feel like that's like really lucky like
Right.
way to do it. Like I wish I could have said like, oh, you know, like I wrote to like 15 places, but my dad's friend helped me get into like a runner position at the DNC. So then I like in like 2016. So it was like really wild and like a lot of hands-on experience, like just working in like getting everything together for production and just like every behind the scene thing you can think of. And that kind of led me into like every other internship I had in college.
What other places did you work at?
From after the DNC internship, it was with NBC. So from there, I was able to do the NBC News Desk for research, which was really cool, and like background checking, and it was really intense. I think that was my most intense internship, and it was like really fun because I just got to, I would work like 10 hours on Friday and like 12 on Saturday, just like doing it like all day long. I was like 19, and it was like the best experience. It was like super focused. And then it was like back and forth from like paid and unpaid internships for like the rest of college. So I would do like a small documentary company, and then I did like Discovery. I got to do more corporate with like Discovery Channel. So
what did you do for Discovery?
I was more in their SVOD and like AVOD, like kind of more corporate of understanding the trends for television and subscription based and stuff like that. And so it's a lot of research.
You're doing right now, though, a little bit.
Yeah, it was definitely a good background for what I do now. And then I ended up getting into a career that's way more technical instead of research based. So it was definitely a really solid background to have. Yeah.
And then after Discovery, was there anything else?
Discovery was my last internship, and then I graduated, and I was lucky enough about like 8 months after graduating, I got the job that I currently have, which is great.
I also like looked at your guys' LinkedIn before this as well. Did a little snooping on my own, and I also saw that you went to like Fourth Row Films as well.
I did.
So what was that experience like?
That was really fun. I think that one was the most hands-on experience I had because it was just a documentary film company, and I was a production and development intern.
Okay,
I think my sophomore year, that one was really awesome. I got to hands-on like interview and like make like, I got to like set up like sets and like film commercials for them because it was just honestly a really good experience, especially at such a young age. It was my sophomore year.
Oh wow!
I think.
Okay.
Yeah, or like maybe my junior year. I can't really remember, but it was like really awesome.
Yeah, that's a great internship for.
Yeah, and I had like a lot of. I think that internship I have the most connection with the other interns after, since it was just like we were hands-on working together all the time, just like editing. Sometimes they would let us like try other things. Like they're like, oh, just edit this clip for us. So you got to do like everything, which was awesome.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's super cool. Okay, one, I feel like the poli-sci thing totally fits into documentaries.
Thank you.
If that, like, you know what I mean? Where it's like weird. Like, you always think, like, how do my interests match up? But if you want to go into documentaries, it totally makes sense.
Yeah, it was like a really fun background to have. I really enjoyed
definitely.
it. Yeah.
To help you with like the research and everything, and how to like come up with construct like an argument or
I did a Model UN at Pace, that like program. So that's a lot of public speaking. Right. And like just like a lot of research, which helped a lot. I think that disciplined me like so much because that was just like a really intense class, and you could do it like a couple times, and it was like a lot, but it helped.
Good.
So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Do you have a favorite internship or a favorite like?
No, honestly, no, because they were all so drastically different. Like DNC was like very hands-on, and then like there was like research one, so I'd be like running around all day or like sitting at a desk, but like they were all so cool because I was so young and kind of learning what I wanted to do. So I think that helped, looking at like all the different areas in the industry instead of just sticking to one. So
I think that's like the point of internships as well, to find out what you want to do. I think it's such a valuable thing and experience for students to have, definitely. How about you, Noah?
Me just trying to avoid answering the question. Actually, I'm like, Melissa, I have another question.
Yeah, exactly.
So one of the majors that I tried out was fashion marketing at Pace. Okay, yeah, and it was, if you guys know Maddie Terry, she actually like developed the major at our university, like super badass. She's so cool. Everything she does is amazing, like the definition of entrepreneur. Awesome. But so she was developing that major, I think, with a group of other people. Kind of goes back to what we were talking about before, where like it just kind of seemed like it wasn't far enough developed for me to be like, oh, I'm going to get a degree in 4 years in this. Like, the school will catch up to me trying to get a degree in this.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I was like, oh, maybe I'll minor in it. And all my internships until I was like 2021 were in fashion marketing or like e-commerce or some social media ones, but I'm just not a social media girl. So like right off the bat, I was like, this isn't my vibe. Like, I don't want to be like hashtag fall. You know what I mean? Like, so I did one at like a fashion magazine / like art exhibit, and that was really cool. I did one for a fashion magazine. I thought magazines were like the shit when I was growing. Like, that to me it was so cool.
Right.
But then when we got into college, they like completely tanked and like went under, unless they were under like a complete new restructure of like what Teen Vogue did, where they became like a completely different company. So a lot of my internships were at magazines, because as a kid, like, I watched The Hills and was like, this is so cool. Like, she's hanging out in the Teen Vogue closet and like, look at all this shit that's going on in her life.
Right.
And it was so fun when I was in it, because the same as to what you were saying, like, some of my best friends now aren't even like are people that I met through internships, are friends of their friends, of like, they would be like, oh, we're going to this party after and stuff like that. And you just like make your friends that way, because it becomes such a great way to meet people who are so like-minded, because it's something that you really like to do.
Right.
So I got some of my best friends out of my fashion
that's
internships.
awesome.
That's so cool.
I made no money at all. Like, literally nothing. To your point as well, which I think is like the best point ever. Internships are so fun, because when you're in 18, 19, you're coming to New York City and everything is just at your disposal. Like, we are living the dream of like 90% of the world at 18. You know what I mean?
Like the center of the universe, pretty much.
Yeah.
I definitely didn't
New York
appreciate
City.
it when it was happening. Like, I appreciate it now. I'm like, oh, that was so fun. But in the moment, you're like so nervous and like,
When did you guys start dorming, or did you guys move right into like apartment in New York?
I dormed all 4 years.
Same.
All 4 years?
Yeah,
Okay.
I wish.
It was also scholarship. Like, they would pay for my dorms and
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I just stayed there. Yeah, and I made the decision, like, study abroad or save up money for an apartment. So I saved up money to study abroad.
Right.
Instead.
Of course. Yeah.
It was worth it to me.
Did you guys
Really
both
cool.
study abroad, or did you just study abroad? I didn't study abroad.
It was like the best thing.
Yeah,
It was really cool.
yeah.
It was just so fun. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
worth it.
One regret I have, definitely.
Yeah. Oh, damn. So I applied to study abroad in South Korea. Like, that was like my dream when I
shit,
was in
okay.
That would
school.
be-
One of my friends just moved there, actually, to
I'm like, are they
English,
looking for
to
a
teach
roommate?
English. Yeah.
Moving.
Yeah, oh, that's awesome. Good for your friend. But again, like, scholarship based. Like, I was like, I got accepted for like 2 out of the 3 scholarships, and I was like, like, so beat up.
Right.
But I don't know. I mean, I have my whole life. Like, that's
Yeah.
I,
You can travel, and you have time. We all have time.
We're here now.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
yeah. But in regards to internships,
Yeah.
so,
Sorry, we went down a rabbit hole. For a
Yeah,
second.
no worries. So I, like, at the time, it was everything, and I was having so much fun, and I was like, especially like coming from like this tiny country that like people can't point on a map, like to be like, I'm in New York City. Like, my cousins were freaking out about any internship. I got like a publication in one of the magazines, and
wow.
my cousins were like, what the fuck? Like, this is so cool, like, hyping me up. So even like the things that I guess would feel more like molecular or like infinitesimal, like, to me, were like, what the fuck? Like, this is crazy. But from a financial perspective, unpaid internships are not it. And like, from an equity perspective, they're absolutely not it. So when I look back at that, I'm like, it was a great time. I made great friends. Working 12-hour, 16-hour days was fine. It was worth it, because I was having a great time.
But didn't you get like experience from it as well? Like, didn't you leverage that experience?
Yes. Okay. So that's another thing, is like, I'll have people who kind of ask about like internship experience, and they're like, I just don't understand why you would accept an unpaid internship. And I'm like, oh, that's because it was the only option when you have no network, right? When you
Right.
have no
And you
like
want experience. Just
For
anything
sure.
at that point. You just need it.
Right.
for
of
sure.
course.
And you are just so grateful that like at the time, one of the magazines I interned at was a subsection of Elle magazine. So I was like, anything that I could say to family and friends in Israel that they could know what it was, that to me was the definition of like big, is if it's not like esoteric to the point where only we know it, was super exciting for me. But I just look back at being 18, 19, and to like Melissa's point a little bit, I'm like, I worked jobs to pay for my internship. Like I worked every single semester, on top of interning 18 to 20 hours, was working 20 to 30. Yeah. So when you think about like...
Teaches you work ethic, you know? Discipline.
Strong.
For sure. For sure.
Determined, you know?
However, what I will argue is that there are kids who don't need to do unpaid internships. What discipline are they learning? There are kids who do get kind of like their first big internship, or they didn't intern at all through college and then immediately go to their dream company. They can...
Crazy.
Yeah, but not rare.
Yeah.
Like, they can develop discipline in other ways, and they can have a great sense of humility and be amazing people. So I genuinely, till the day I graduated, was like... And we talked about this a little bit whenever we had our call, like, till the day I graduated, to kind of, like, cushion my own self and my own ego, was like, unpaid internships are part of the struggle. Like, it's just, like, I know that, like, technically in that time, in the work that I did, I could probably be walking out with an extra 20, 30K. Like, if you really added it up, whatever. Like, it was part of what made me who I am. And then it wasn't until I thought, like, about my own privilege that I was like, oh, there's people who have it worse in their internship experiences.
Right,
How can it possibly be harder to find an internship than that? Than like literally cold calls for places that aren't going to pay you. Like, so I think about it where, from a company perspective, if you need interns, make sure you have the money to pay your interns. And then, like, I don't know. So, digressing from my own internship experience, though, I then interned for a brand management company owned by Damon John from Shark Tank for a QVC line for Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Okay.
And that was within fashion and all that. And I made some great friends there. I became friends with a lot of the people who just worked there already because they were all like 2-3 years older than me. So, they would have days where my supervisor was literally just in Philly filling for QVC. And so I would just come in. It was one of my 2 or 3 days that I was there because I had to like work at like a clothing store the other days. And so I would just go around and be like, can somebody like, if anyone needs help with literally anything, like
that's the best thing you can do as an intern. Just be like, I'll do anything. Just let me.
Yeah, that's good advice.
Yeah,
like, so what kind of advice would you have for somebody interning in college? Like, what would you tell them?
I think that's the best thing is when you're there, don't stick to what they give. Like, always do the work you're given, but always just be open to helping anyone.
And that's
like you get into the coolest situations and like the best experience when you do that.
For sure. And that's how I got asked to come back and got to work on like a bunch of really cool projects.
So, I mean, to kind of segue into, so you guys both had all these internships, and, you know, after senior year comes along, what was your game plan to like get a job? You know, what was that like? Was that difficult? Did you already have something lined up? Did you have to like, you know, just create a network from scratch? What was your plan?
It was really intimidating at first because I was lucky that I was interning my last semester of college, so I like had kind of a mentor, which was my supervisor, and she was just awesome. So she like was really open to talking to me, like helping me. I think she was the biggest factor in helping me understand like what to apply for and like what's a good entry level and like what you can do. She was really my network in a way. So that's lucky. If you have an internship at the end, just like take advantage of like every second of it, because after that you're kind of on your own unless you like network, and then you're just like on LinkedIn searching all day and you're like, job, New York, like you just figure it out. But it's also really intimidating how long it can take, like how long it takes just to like get an interview, and like trying not to get discouraged when you like have an interview and it doesn't work in like such a weird way. It's like whatever happens, like you can't regret like doing bad at an interview or whatever.
Right.
And apply for jobs you're not qualified for just to do it. Because even if you get an interview and that's it, you're like getting experience. Go to every interview and like
it's all practice.
All of it.
If you don't get it, it's just practice.
Yeah, but it works out in the end. Like you get there.
That was really good advice.
Oh.
Like I wish I could bring her to like talk to me senior year.
I couldn't even. I should have talked to me. Like I was just like stressed out. But
Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's very stressful and everything.
Yeah.
How was your experience, Noah?
I was freaking out the entirety of senior year,
yeah.
which was weird. I was freelancing at one of my internships. I was interning at AMC at the time, but like, man, it really just sent me on a full identity crisis that year because I was just like, what makes sense? And also just being far away from New York originally, I was like, this is the first time that I'm making an active decision to live in New York City.
Right.
Which I don't know if you felt that as well. Did you feel? I mean, I guess did you want to be in New York? Like you knew for sure.
Yeah, I knew for sure that I wanted to stay in New York.
Same. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I think I did too. Yeah. But I think it so to bounce off more so what Melissa was saying, I think every single person you meet in your life knows something that you don't.
Right.
So there's no person who's like a waste of your time.
Yeah, I totally agree
and
with
there's
you.
no person who's the right person to go to either. So like you can hit up like I know this one person and they work here and like I saw that there's openings there, so I'm gonna hit them up and that's the right person and it's like a shoo-in. Most likely you're wrong. Like most likely that's not it. Even though that's kind of like the approach that's the most common for people to take. I think the literal best thing you can do is like talk to anyone who's willing to talk to you. And some of the best things I feel like I learned for like career in life are from customers at my like retail shop or like stuff like that. Like
That's
who
good, though.
just are coming in and like you're having that kind of like one-on-one interaction and they're just kind of like venting to you. When you're a senior, I think the best advice is to go to like if you're in that same position of like you're at an internship, great. Anyone who wants to talk to you there, anyone who you feel comfortable talking to, because it can be a more like intimate thing to, because again, like having a job means something different.
Well, you're already in. Like you don't have to like try to get in. Like you're at hopefully the industry you want to be at, and you're just like
for
talk
sure,
to them.
Right.
For sure. I think it's also like the importance of having a job right outside of college means something different depending on your life. So if it's something that's super important to you, find someone who's kind of like values align with yours or like, kind of had a similar path to you.
Right.
I think for me that's what was the most helpful, but I also fell into that. Like my internship advisor my senior year was from a town over from me in Massachusetts, came to college for New York, and like 100% got that like going to college and doing the internship vibe. And then, so that was super helpful. My professors, I think professors are so like astounded when you actually care and they're so excited about it.
Oh, definitely.
So I still talk to like 3 or 4 of my professors from PACE, like on a regular basis, just because they like, I don't know, I feel like they're super helpful.
I mean, I think everybody has a network, and especially the friends that you hang out with. I mean, I know just from me personally, like a lot of my friends had jobs coming out and whatnot, so that was like putting pressure on like me and also other people as well. So I think it definitely, you know, matters who you hang out with too. That might have something to do with it.
Do you think that pressure is good or bad?
I think it depends on who you
Both,
are.
maybe?
I think it's
Like,
both. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I think it depends on the industry as well. But I mean, I think it depends on how supportive your friend group is as well.
Or how you like see, like you can either put too much pressure on yourself and like stress yourself out, or it can
Right.
like push you to keep applying.
Right.
Yeah.
Or they can be supportive too and help you along the way, and you know.
Yeah,
For sure.
And be happy for your friends. That's
Yeah,
something you always
exactly.
have to remember too.
No,
It's
definitely,
like
I agree with
just because
that.
they're doing something doesn't mean you have to be like, well, I'm not. It's like it's super cool.
Okay,
Right. You
yeah,
gotta be
that's
supportive.
huge. And
Yeah.
also, like, if your friends don't support you, they are not your friends.
Yeah,
Like, that's
I
it's
agree.
so important. Like, to
Yeah.
the people who, I don't know that that's necessarily, like, about a network or anything, but just in,
I mean, everyone that's around you is a network
for sure.
in
I
a
think,
way. So
And LinkedIn's huge if you're in college. Like, I
Yeah.
use LinkedIn all the time.
our industry is less traditional it's not as clear cut as like if you talk to your friends from home who are in banking or like going to be
Insurance
doctors, like all
yeah.
sorts of different things.
Right.
There's a
And you
path.
kind of explain, they have like a very clear cut, like this is what the next few years of my life are going to be like.
Oh, there's no clear path when you do like
Yeah.
media, because
Yeah, exactly. There's like you can hop
There's
around.
so
There's
many
a million
different
different
things
jobs.
to do that you don't even know.
Yeah,
For
exactly.
sure. So I think friends who understand and then friends who are just supportive, like, are so important.
Yeah.
No,
But
I agree.
the very last thing I'll say for the networking senior year, my senior year is when I started volunteering at the school that's right by my apartment. And it's when I met, in my opinion, some of my like strongest mentors and like
Oh, wow, okay.
That's awesome.
helpful, because like coming to college, I went from a town that was like 15% Israeli, tons of immigrants from all over the world, and then
Right.
I went to Pace, which Pace is super diverse, but there's also a lot of like Staten Island, Long Island, Brooklyn since they were born.
Right.
And I was the only Israeli kid in our graduating class. So
gosh.
I just like didn't know kind of that sense of like, I think when I was searching for mentors, like along the route, I was like, these people understand a part of what I'm looking for, but there's this huge aspect of who I am that I just can't really like, I feel like it's missing. Mentorship means something different to everyone. For me, it's not about getting a job. It's about, you are a person who I want to be like.
Well, that's
in
such a good
3
outlook.
years.
Like, I feel like I need to take that on because
Right,
I'm like,
no,
job. But
Yeah, so for me, like, even in regards to, like, I never want to network. I want it to always happen by accident.
Okay. No,
Like-
that's
oh,
good.
that's nice.
That's my mentality, because also, like, if you, in my opinion, and all of this is in my opinion, like, not matter of
course.
fact.
No, yeah.
But
course.
if you shift who you are to be the right answer for a role, you're going to be playing a role for your entire job.
Oh, that's deep. Yeah.
So it's the same thing with, like, I don't know, my friends in my company always say it's like it's the same thing with dating, where it's like if you like pretend to be somebody that you're not, you're gonna have to hold that shit. Like you're gonna like
Not
be
you.
not you.
Not
Like
the guy.
eventually shit's gonna come back
Yeah,
to you,
fan,
right?
You can act
Yeah.
for
And
forever. Like
Also, like it's not always about like making that person have. It's also about like being happy at some point yourself. So whatever job you work, like you're going to be spending a lot of time working that job, and you might think like, I want a job now, and I want
Right.
like, this is like the place. Like the most important thing is to be your authentic self. And if they like it, because when you go into like an interview or anything, like they're interviewing you, but you're also interviewing them.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
two-way
So,
street.
like, I never want to network. Like, I never want to go in and be like, hi, my name is Noah. This is what I have to offer. Like, it just feels really unnatural. And it's also so esoteric to just the U.S. Like, the U.S. is the only place where networking is a concept, really. It's the
Interesting.
foundation of it. And people who come from other countries just don't know how to do it. And so for me, I just, like, I'd so much rather just make friends where it makes sense for me to make friends and create that kind of like, oh, we have a similarity in who we are, that it
Right.
feels like a natural conversation already. And then if anything happens from there, then it's by complete accident and luck.
Right.
Well,
so
that's good,
Yeah, no,
yeah.
that's a great segue into like my next question. So, so you used your guys' network or the people you know and at your school or what? But how did that like? So after that, you got the job at AMC Networks, both of you guys. So what's like your role there? How do you guys like it? Is that where you see yourself in the future?
I would say, especially for entry level jobs, it's like my first job out of college.
Right.
I got lucky that I kind of went into a direction, at least even a little bit, that I wanted, because I know I wanted to do more of like technical stuff. So right now I do ad operations and like web operations for our all of our websites, because we have like AMC Networks. So we have like a
So what does that
Five.
mean exactly? Just like dumb it down for
yeah.
me. Like
I think the
fourth
best way
grade.
to explain it is I'll take like either video or like pictured creatives, and I get like the HTML like version, so it's just like tags,
Okay.
and we implement them
Got it.
onto the website. So like the agency that like is for like a company will edit the video, shoot, and do all the production, and then I'll get the tagged version.
Okay.
And I'll like implement all the tags and do the technical parts, and like this will go up at this time, and this banner will pop up here that promotes this, and like how we met is that she works at the other part of AMC for WeTV, and I was putting up their promos. So like I was putting their promos like physically on the website. So it's putting me in the direction of like what I want to do. I want to do more content based instead of ad, but it's still like operations. So I want to be in operations, which is cool. And it's so different than what I thought it was going to be like in college. In college, I imagine like TV operations, like you're in this big room and there's all these screens, you're like, go. And you're like so excited. In reality, I'm like everyone's sitting at my desk and I'm like, enter. And you're like, hey guys, you're like eating your lunch at desk and you're like, it's like this big moment in your head, but like no one knows what's happening. It's like I'm cheering for myself. I'm like, yes, it's up. But it's fun. I'm very lucky that I got.
So do you want to create content, or what do you mean when you say content? Like just deal with it, deal with like creative people?
Yeah, I like what direction I want to go in more with the content, you mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I want to, because right now I do more of like advertisement content that goes on like in the middle of a show or commercial or something, but I kind of want to be more involved in the operations process of like exactly what I do, but like let's say with our shows. And then if I'm lucky, maybe get more like technical and like work on like maybe if production, like hands on.
Awesome,
But I think right now getting this like firsthand experience with like all this tech stuff that I didn't learn in college as like a first level thing, and then try to like get in and maybe like network that way and like work throughout the company, if that makes sense.
No,
at all.
That definitely makes sense.
Yeah,
I mean, I have to ask, like, do you have a favorite show or anything? Like, is that a hard question? I feel like you guys
so
get that
much.
like
I know,
question
but you know
all the
what?
time, but
we
I
do
just
have IFC, so Portlandia.
Okay.
Because
That's
we
a
have
great
that,
one.
and yeah, I love it. It's so. I mean, I know it's not running anymore, but it's on there and it's great. We also have Graham Norton, which is like my favorite interview show. But yeah, it's pretty fun.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Noah?
Favorite show?
No, I mean, we can start with a favorite show, but also like what you do. For
Okay.
AMC
I guess
Networks.
favorite show for AMC Networks. A lot of people don't know Killing Eve is one of our shows.
Yeah.
Okay.
Really good.
Yeah.
Even if it's like out of your comfort zone in regards to like kind of like the direction that the show takes, because it's very like unique. Like I don't know, it's like following a like serial killer kind of.
Interesting.
Like a hitman or whatever.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
I guess serial. Yeah, hitman probably makes more sense to define
a
it.
serial killer.
Yeah.
Just like hi.
But like scenically so beautiful, just the way everything is shot, and the cast is phenomenal. And also, if anyone watches Fleabag, the like person in Fleabag she like wrote it, I think, the first season for Killing Eve.
Yeah, I haven't heard of Fleabag, but
Oh my god, so good.
You have to watch
Really?
it. It's
You have to watch it.
okay,
It's
I'll
insane.
look into it definitely.
It's good.
Yeah.
So I'm in media planning, which is
Yep.
pretty similar to what she does, except it's on air. So more like for cable. And what we'll do is programming promotions and advertisements based off when it strategically makes the most sense for gaining viewership. So when you think about like if you're watching Criminal Minds or like Full House was always on what's it called, ABC Family, which I think is like Freeform now and stuff like that. Because that's a show that they acquired,
Right.
it's less likely for them to advertise when you can tell that I like haven't watched ABC Family in a long time. When Pretty Little Liars was on, like they would not advertise for like Pretty Little Liars in Full House because that's an acquired show, but they're more likely to do it when it's in their original programming. So that's stuff that we'll think about. And then our core aspect is like the actual premiere hours themselves, which are 2 or 3 nights out of the week, and making sure that we're pushing our new shows. And then the thing that me and Melissa overline with is for streaming services and for like our online, like when we post online after, I have like a document that I work on for what promotions make sense. And in that, because it's our original programming, we like only advertise original programming. So I let her know what promos to put in. She puts them in
And I'm-
ever so well.
Okay. No, the dream team right over here.
Yeah.
So also you're you're heading the mentoring program, or can you talk a little bit about that and like what's that about?
Yeah, definitely
impressive.
not heading the mentoring program.
But high
okay.
up there. She's still impressive.
She's up there. She's like
still
top
up
three,
there,
right? Or-
Definitely not. But thank you. But so we have employee resource groups within our diversity and inclusion sector, and then I lead the one that's for like rising leaders and more so revolved around professional development. Makes no sense for me to be one of the leaders. So when I like talk, and I joke about this all the time whenever we have like new members, of like, I'm literally a year out of school. Like, what do I know about like anything? And so for me coming in was like, going back to what we were saying, like I know what it looks like to be an intern, and I know what it looks like to have questions. And so how can we make questions like, how do I learn more about different departments? How do I learn, like, how can we make that be clear as to who to go to, and how can we create a community that people can then go to? So that's the goal for my employee resource group. And then also just sharing different stories of what, like, even going back to like being an immigrant, like we had an immigrant and first gen panel of like people who are the first in their family to enter media, or the first in their family to like work in the US in general. So they're saying like, how do you have a network when you don't even know what that word means? So within that, and then for mentoring, it's something that we're like submitting to, which is like a bigger company initiative. But we're trying to find a way that makes it just more applicable to our group, because there's so many young people. And I think it's a conversation that we're constantly having, like even with our friends, of who do I go to? How do I ask these questions? How do I identify somebody that makes sense for me to go to learn from? So the great luxury of being 23 is that I know I can hear more of what is on people's minds, because it's also on my mind, and it's a conversation that I'm having all day long. So with that, I get to bring it to people who can then help us create something that helps that.
Right. So I think I want to also talk about, because I know this is big for especially, businesses right now and everything, and also, graduates. What kind of skills do you see like people like coming out of school? What kind of skills do they need? And also, how has technology played? Is that becoming a bigger and bigger factor as well? Or would you say there's other skills that people should bring to the table graduating from college?
I feel like this is probably the answer no one wants to hear, but especially when being in media, you gotta just like do everything when you're like learning.
So I was gonna say,
you have to just try to like at least know a little bit of if that makes sense. Like
what is everything?
Do some like creative work on your own, even if it's not professional. Do some creative, do some technical, do some public speak. You have to just round yourself, because you don't always know where you're gonna end up, if that makes sense. And then you're gonna be trained in your job in that specific skill. So if you're kind of well-rounded, it also gives you an opportunity to like move around in your position. Like in my position, since I did a lot of public speaking in school, like I just took on the role, like I even said I would, like I run some meetings sometimes, just because like we're shifting things around.
Yeah.
And so like I'm running meetings, and like I'm still like, I'm like the youngest person in the team, but I'm like, I'll just do it, because like other people like don't like doing that, but I'm just so used to doing that. For just like well-round yourself. But technology, even if you like aren't like the most fond of like tech things, like just have a little bit under your belt, because everything is moving to digital.
Right. If you had to pick one like tech thing, like skill, which one would it be?
Oh, no basic HTML.
HTML.
I think everyone needs to know basic HTML. Yeah, because everything, the way that, at least what I understand with my job, like if you want to do anything with like video, the way we take video and we put it onto like websites, because everything's online now, and website could even be like on your computer, on your tablet, phone, or like a Fire Stick. It's done through like HTML.
Got it.
To like implement it, which is like the tag. And like I didn't think that would be like what I do, because I want to work with video, but you're not always using like, like export. You're not just like putting that video online, because that makes it more fluid, like moving it. So HTML is like really, really important. Even just like understanding it. You don't have to know how to write code and all of that, but sound like the weird one, like everyone needs to know code. Like, but I mean, it helps.
Okay.
It's super helpful.
I think people should know,
Yeah.
It's really not that hard. Just, I thought it was, and it was really scary, but like just know like a little bit, and you're like, oh, okay.
Like a little class or like a YouTube.
Yeah, even just YouTube, like those like professors online that like post the whole thing with boards, like saved my life.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think everything Melissa said is spot on. Be flexible to learn and like just excited for everything, because even in regards to like whatever you do, you're gonna be doing a little bit of everything. It also is so dependent on what you want to do coming out of school and what route you want to take. So if you want to go into a more corporate environment like what we're in, they will train you. So we're really lucky in that regard of like, if the interview goes well and the team likes you, they'll train you. Better to have those skills, and it will make you more like marketable if you have those skills off the bat. But if you are going into working for a startup, working freelance, working for yourself, you got to know everything. Like, you got to teach yourself everything. And it's mad impressive. I'm sure more people that you interview are probably like more so working for themselves. And like Matt probably has some things that he works on for himself as well. It's like two completely different hats of like, if knowing how to edit, knowing how to do, but the best thing I think you can do is literally say yes to everything. Like, even if you are like, I don't know, like if someone's taking the time out to show you how to do something, do it. Why not? Like, even if it feels like it's not going to be applicable, it'll be applicable to you at some point.
No, I think that's great advice. Definitely for, you know, just starting like your career and whatnot. So I think just like wrapping up, my last question for you guys is like, where do you see yourself, you know, in like the next like 3 to 5 years? Is it at the same company? Does it do something else?
I feel like that's definitely a hard question, because I can feel like I'd give an answer now and be like, yeah. And then in 5 years, I'm like in a whole different place. Because I feel like that's the biggest thing with like working in this industry with media. Like, you think it's going to go like one way. Like, you're like, let's say 10 years ago, everyone's like, oh, I want to work in linear TV, but now linear is digital.
Yeah.
So everything changes so fast. So I hope I'm still going to be in like digital streaming, television, and hopefully working more in like the production, and my skills of like tech will like help me like go higher up. But you never know, which is kind of scary but fun.
Yeah,
I think that's why we all like it, really, because it's kind of scary, because we don't really, it's like always changing, but it's cool.
I think everyone who says that they know is lying. Everyone who I've like most people who I talk to about it will straight up be like, the fuck if I know? Like, I just don't.
Right.
And people, I just think everything is so unpredictable. I feel like there's people who can kind of present themselves in different ways and be like, oh, this is the work version of me. This is the version of me. Like, unfortunately, I hope it's just fortunately, there's really only one me. Like, I don't know how to be anything but myself.
Right, of course.
So, like, in my general life, I can't plan for anything. So, like, when everybody was with COVID, where everyone's like, oh, it just sucks that we can't plan. I'm like, oh, I've literally never planned anything in my life. Like, I've really just been like, go with the flow always, and trusted that like I can trust my gut and know what makes sense for me.
I'm jealous. I'm like the opposite of you. I'm like,
Really?
I've planned every little. I'm like, okay, this. Like,
I mean, I think that's good to see like both sides of it, though.
and we ended up in the same place.
Yeah,
So anything can happen.
Exactly. So if you're out there, you know.
So
just
if
like,
you
what am I
are
gonna-
wondering what your path is,
Exactly. Don't worry.
there's every path. I don't know. You're
I think it's good in that it's good because you always are like, you know what track to be like, okay, am I checking
negative,
this?
stressed
Yeah.
out. So, you know,
Right.
you can get stressed super
I
easy.
feel you can't. I don't know. I can't figure out how to say like firmly that anything will be a set way, because the way I've seen my life play out has been like taking a complete 180 was always the move. Like every time when I'm like, okay, my friends when I was in high school, I'll move to Israel, and I almost did that. If I look back at that, I'm like, thank fucking God I didn't do that. And then, which like no shade to them because they're all having a great time, but like flipping from fashion internships to working in TV, like thank God I did that. But it made no sense. Like if I was following that track, because I think her way is better and more effective for like like really all people. Like I think my advice, if you are like me and you're a space cadet and with ADD who like can't focus on anything, is whatever you're doing. So like even for me, like I spend an equal amount of time before the pandemic and the school was still open. I spent an equal amount of time at work I was doing for the school as I did for work at work.
Okay.
And the school is completely voluntary, like unpaid, just because it makes me happy. And so I have a lot of friends who are like, I don't get it. Like that has nothing to do with your career path. Why are you there? I know that it makes sense for me and I know it's the right thing for me. So I'm going to keep going and I'm going to full send that, and became like a volunteer leader where I have my own group of volunteers and we make our own course for the kids.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That's
So
awesome.
thank
great.
you. Like I think with that, whatever you do, you just have to full send it. And like that's the only, because if you keep switching paths, right, you're trying to catch up to people who are like been doing it since the day they were born.
Right.
So I love TV. I love especially more than anything, the friends that I've made in TV are awesome. Like some of my best friends now. So like I think that's the track that I'm on, and I'm having a great time at my company and understanding.
Yeah. No, that's awesome.
Like I feel like I've been able to receive so many opportunities in such a quick amount of time that I feel so lucky. The only, like, genuinely, if you like can't plan and like can't, like, I could not tell you what my life will look like in 6 months.
Right, of course.
I think you need to give yourself more credit though, because she says like, oh, like the planning works, but you're the lead. You lead a lot. Like you're leading all these programs. Like I'm following a path, but your path works because like she's leading this, she's leading
Right.
that. Like,
No, I think it's great.
yeah, it's all great.
I think like my last, so like bottom line, I think the last question, I said that before, but this is the last one. Just like in one sentence, what would be the one piece of advice you would give somebody out there who's a senior or who's looking for a job right now?
This might be very specific advice, but the best advice I ever got from my internship mentor was go email people, go on LinkedIn, and don't ask them, can I have a job? Just ask them what they do and say, hey, do you have a minute to talk about what you do? I'm just interested. Always just say you're interested and go for what you're interested in. Just learn. You don't always get a job from it, but you're just discovering more things, and it's a free way. You don't have to really do anything extra outside. You can call. Just always be open to like every single thing and reach out to
Perfect,
everyone. Yeah.
I super agree with that. The best way to get a job is to have a job. So even if you're working a job that like, we are so lucky that our first jobs out of school are at a media company and a
Yeah.
media company that we love. If your first job is being an assistant at a privately owned, like independent mom and pop,
Right.
whatever, that's a job. That's something that you put on your resume, and it's something you earned, and it's something you're working at, and you're like putting the time in, and you're more likely to get a job from that than you are from like waiting for your dream opportunity.
Right.
Which
you gotta
I
like prove yourself, I think. Right. Starting
yeah,
out.
and which you said one sentence, but just to add one thing that's like attaching myself to what Melissa said, is like open up a book, learn. Listen to people. Every single person again, like genuinely every single person knows something that you don't, and every single person has something to teach you.
Awesome.
And
Definitely.
yeah,
I couldn't agree
Oh,
more.
fake it
But
till you make it.
Fake it till you
Oh,
make
Fake
Facts.
it until you make it.
Facts.
Never. Just fake it. Just do it. Who cares? What are you gonna lose?
Full
Just
send,
be like, yes,
yeah.
I can do that, and then Google it and learn it, and then you're good.
I feel like
yeah,
if
like-
COVID kind of showed us anything, it's like, oh, like there
can
could
do any
literally be a global pandemic that will shut the entire world
But your
down.
job will still ask you to go in, so you'll still have to go to work.
Definitely, yeah.
That's
That too.
yeah, that's
But,
hilarious. Yeah.
like it taught you that like you might as well literally do everything, because in a split second everything can change for the entire world. So like you might as well like speak in front of a room that you're afraid to speak in front of, or like shoot your shot for your dream gig.
Exactly.
Or do something that you think your friends, which again, they wouldn't be your actual friends, are going to shit on you for. Because if a global pandemic shuts everything down and all those opportunities are gone, you're going to sit in your room and you're going to think, those were all opportunities that I had at my disposal that I didn't think about when they were there because I was too busy thinking about these other opportunities that I and like couldn't get.
Right.
But when everything's gone, you're able to take a step back and be like, oh, there were actually a lot of things that I could have been doing and that I can be doing during a pandemic.
Yeah. So no, I think that's like a great place to end on. So I just want to thank you guys again for coming in and talking to me. It was great getting to know your guys' stories. So thank you.
Thanks for asking us to do this. This was great.
Yeah, of course,
awesome.
of course.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I just want to thank Super Lost for their coffee. It was delicious. All right. But yeah, I was in a Panera commercial actually, sophomore year.
No way.